Okay, welcome back. In our next segment here, with me in the studio is Kendall. He's a real estate broker from Visalia and very involved in real estate there, commercial properties and different types of properties. Roy, you want to tell us a little bit about your background in real estate briefly, and then we also have Christopher Sutton on the line from Pasadena to talk about redevelopment a little bit. So we'll go ahead and introduce yourself, Roy.
Yes, well, I've just been a real estate broker quite a while. I've been at this business since 73, 74, and enjoy it very much. But my primary focus today is on trying to end the redevelopment agencies' activities, just not only California, but nationwide.
Okay, very good. And Christopher Sutton, are you on the line, sir?
Yes, I am. Yes,
okay.
I am.
Well, welcome to Tim Thiessen Live. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to chat with us today and our viewers. Christopher, just to bring myself and my viewers up to speed, what's really, in a nutshell, the redevelopment agency is all about, and they're a big part of our government and becoming ever increasingly larger.
Right. Every city and county has the ability to invoke a state law that allows them to use these locally operated but state agencies called redevelopment agencies, and they then declare big territories in their city or county to be quote-unquote blighted, which in the past has been a very vague and undefined term. And then once they're declared blighted, these areas are presumed to be blighted for almost forever. But the effect of that is twofold. Number one, they start diverting property taxes away from the county and the schools and then giving it over to either borrow money with bonds or to pay their staff or to give to developers. And number two, they use the power of eminent domain in these quote-unquote blighted areas to take property away from one private owner and give it to another private owner, even though the definition of blight was vague and, in fact, usually is a lie. But once a property has been declared blighted, the state law presumes it blighted basically forever. And to my knowledge, no property that's ever been declared blighted has ever been declared unblighted and ever has been removed from a redevelopment project. They just grow and grow. They never shrink. They never go back on the tax rolls. And in the meantime, the local services for police and fire and schools suffer because of the diversion of money. And statewide now, it's about $5 billion a year being diverted away from traditional local services and being sent over to the agencies. The agencies also have the power to issue bonds without voter approval, which of course city council members love because they then wear the second hat as redevelopment officials, and they just borrow money and borrow money. And so it's just an open-ended, almost a Ponzi scheme to subsidize developers, and a lot of the money goes to hotels and car dealers and big box retailers and sports teams, and it's just an open-ended way to raid the public purse for the benefit of a select few.
Okay, now just so I get a clarification in my own mind here, what percentage of property tax collected is diverted into redevelopment agencies, roughly, statewide?
Well, it depends on when the project area was declared blighted. But, for example, in downtown Los Angeles, the Bunker Hill area was declared blighted in 1959. Today, it's covered with high-rises, the new Disney Concert Hall, the Art Museum, thousands of condominiums, and virtually everything that was there in 1959 is gone, yet the whole area is still legally blighted. Millions of dollars in property taxes are paid by the property owners, but of the property taxes paid, 98% of the property taxes on Bunker Hill go to the redevelopment agency, and the 2% of taxes, which is the dollar amount that was being paid before the blight declaration, that is split between the county, the schools, the city, flood control, college district, and so that it's an ever-increasing number, and it varies from city to city and from project area to project area.
Okay, are any of those... And now, in some cities, and one south of here, matter of fact, my hometown in Dinuba, I believe there's, out of the redevelopment agency, I believe there is from time to time some money that does come out of the redevelopment agency to help schools with infrastructure. Is that correct, or how does that work?
The individual agencies have the right, if they want to provide money for some school infrastructure. And if the project area was declared blighted after 1993, there is a state law that sets a formula for what are called pass-throughs, and a certain fixed amount of the money goes to the schools and the counties, but that fixed amount is much lower than they would have received if no redevelopment had been put in place.
No.
But you're right. Individual school, Burbank down here, to their credit, the city of Burbank has spent a lot of money on the high schools in Burbank. They didn't have to, but other cities don't. The city of LA doesn't, the city of Pasadena doesn't, and most redevelopment agencies don't spend money on the schools. They just don't think it's their job.
Right. Well, like it down here, to the credit of the city council and the city manager in Dinuba and Dinuba Unified School District, there in that case there, but I believe it's from the checking I've done here preparing for this show, is those are the exceptions to the rules where the RDAs will cooperate with the school district and actually help these school districts out on infrastructure and buildings. And you know, so what
I'm looking at the state controller's compilation of the redevelopment. It says that the Dinuba project area was declared blighted in 1984, and it included 2,750 acres. It's not scheduled to go out of business until 2036. So the blighted area in Dinuba may be the whole city. I don't know.
Yeah, 2,700 acres will just about take up the city of Dinuba. So,
okay.
Yeah,
that's what they did. But yeah, but it's been blighted for a long time now. I don't know what they've done with the money to eliminate the so-called blight.
Well, yeah, that will have to be examined. That's one of my questions. There is the way it's unfolding here is there's a lot of RDAs around. Dinuba, I think, is an exception. The city of Shafter, I have a good relationship there with the city manager, and I met him when I was running for state senate, and they're being what I believe to be fairly responsible with their funds, but there is a tremendous amount of towns and cities in California I think have been, what I understand, have been very negligent in how they've been handling their money.
Yeah, and I think most of the bigger cities have been just really, really over the top in some of this stuff. I mean, San Jose, Los Angeles, San Diego are just ridiculous, the amount of money we're talking about. You know, we're talking about billions of dollars with a B that's gone into these projects. You know, when I had that quote in the San Jose paper a few weeks ago, they quoted the San Jose director saying, well, if this money is taken away from us, we won't be able to build another sports stadium to lure the 49ers out of San Francisco. And the question is, why should, you know, police officers and firefighters and teachers have their, you know, salaries cut or be laid off so that the city of San Jose can move a sports team from city to city? Why is that a good thing for California to have sports teams jumping around at public expense?
Well, that's to the point, I think, of a lot of what's going on in California right now. There's a lot of programs, like I think the original intention of RDA, if it was managed correctly, is good, just like a lot of our programs through the government. But, you know, there's a lot of abuses going on, and when you start getting into billions of dollars, the temptation to do other things with them, you know, I think it becomes very overwhelming. And but I'm going to keep an open mind on this deal, because I've got, in the fairness, I'm such a sweetheart of a guy. If you don't believe that, just ask Mrs. Thiessen. She made a wise choice marrying me, but I don't know if she'll ever go on the air and say that.
Well, ask Roy about what happened in Visalia with that hotel and convention center back in the 90s. You know, Roy had personal experience with that.
Roy, you want to chime in here and tell us a little bit about that experience?
Well, what it amounts to is anytime you mix public and private, you really don't have private, you just have private benefit with the public support. So anytime anyone receives a letter of credit from a redevelopment agency backed up by the taxing power of a city, which is what happened in Visalia, then anybody, your person most bankrupt could be the developer, as long as they had that letter of credit. And that's what happened. Matter of fact, the person was unable personally to get the financing, and so the redevelopment agency backed it up with a letter of credit, which means that anybody could have done that project if you had the government backing. So the idea of a public and private partnerships takes away, it's actually a con, because you don't have a private project at all. You just have a public project that has a shell person out there as a lead, trying to make it look like it's private when really it's not, and you don't have the competition, which is a result of freedom. The real problem that we have in America is we've lost sight of the parallel between our freedom and our prosperity. And anything that reduces our freedom reduces our prosperity. And so if you're going to have more prosperity, you need more freedom.
Roy?
What's that?
Roy, tell them what happened with that hotel in Visalia that they had to pick up the tab on.
Well,
tell the story of the hotel and the bad deal they cut with the redevelopment agency.
yeah, they wanted a hotel so badly that they went in to downtown Visalia, took out a First American title and a functioning gas station, and decided that they were going to put up this hotel, but they needed a private developer to make it happen. So they were doing, the problem in Visalia was they were trying to do as a city what they could have done legally, even though it's immoral, and should be criminal as far as I'm concerned. They tried to do it as a city what they could have done as a redevelopment agency, and they got caught. That's what happened. But and eventually it was admitted that that things were not as represented. The project was not going to make money. It was going to lose a lot of money. Matter of fact, I estimated $1 million a year. It ended up losing $2 million the first year. And the idea that you're putting together public and private in any partnership is going to be good for the public in the long run is a total joke. There's ample evidence to show that if the project is good, then private money will back the project. Private money will support the project if there's a profit. And as soon as you get the government involved, then obviously there goes away the competition, and the next thing you know, private won't even enter it, won't even compete with it. So we have lots and lots of examples of where we have government monopolies that if you had the private sector had access, they could do a better job, far less expensive, and we wouldn't have the exorbitant costs that are connected with a government project. The city lost a lot of money. A lot of money was lost in that project, and eventually it was sold to a private entity, but it never needed to be done the way it was done. It's the method here is extremely wasteful, as I think. Could you point out what our Governor Brown, what his opinion of RDA is today?
Christopher, can I get you to hang on through the commercial break here?
Sure.
Okay, stay with us. We're going to take a commercial break and pick this up, and we'll be right back after this message.